Elon Musk is all of a sudden Twitter's largest stakeholder. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Elon Musk just bought 9.2% of Twitter stock, which sent the share price soaring. Musk could use his sizable Twitter stake to influence the company's board and management. And I think that's an interesting point. You know, one would think that a billionaire of his stature would be doing this as a financial incentive to, increase his portfolio. But I think in the case of Elon Musk, he is presenting this as though he is somewhat infiltrating the company from the inside in an attempt to eventually change the algorithms and possibly even their policy on free speech. And the reason why I say that is because he, in case you didn't know, was back on March 25th, he put out this poll. Free speech is essential to a functioning democracy. Do you believe that Twitter rigorously adheres to this principle? And 70% of the people who voted, over 2 million of them, said no, Twitter does not rigorously adhere to the principle of free speech being essential to a functioning democracy. And he follows that up saying, the consequences of this poll are going to be important. Please vote very carefully. And then he follows that up with this, guys. Given that Twitter serves as the de facto public town square, this is after seeing the results, failing to adhere to free speech principles fundamentally undermines democracy. What should be done? And then he asks, is a new platform needed? And then this guy chimes in saying, would you consider building a new social media platform, Elon Musk? One that would consist of an open source algorithm, one where free speech and adhering to free speech is given top priority, one where propaganda is very minimal. I think that kind of platform is needed. And he chimed in saying, I'm giving serious thought to this. Now, he is a smart businessman. I think he knows that it's far more difficult to launch your own social media network than it is to take over an existing one. And it seems to me, based on his previous tweets here, calling Twitter the de facto public town square, saying they need to adhere to free speech, does seem like he's working towards the decentralization of the free flow of information online, something that, interestingly enough, the Twitter founder, Jack Dorsey, recently just admitted, Twitter founder Jack Dorsey admits that he's partially to blame for the centralization of the internet. Oops. Twitter co-founder Jack Dorsey lamented the centralization of the internet, but at least had the self-awareness to admit that that's something he had a major hand in creating. It goes on to say here, Dorsey, who stepped down as CEO of Twitter last year, obviously has played a significant role in centralizing information on the internet. While the social media giant might struggle to keep up with investors' growth expectations, Twitter's cultural impact is unquestioned. And that's for sure. A large portion of what goes viral on other social sites like Instagram or TikTok, how trends start, begins on Twitter. It's also a hub for media folks, full disclosure, like myself, which means it has an outsized impact on what makes the news. Dorsey spent a fair bit of time promoting the idea of decentralization of the internet, even pushing Twitter to get behind an open source social network standard back in 2019. And indeed, this battle for free speech goes on even far back, further than 2019. As you know, I've been covering this for quite some time. I remember there was a period there in Canada, in the US, where a lot of pieces of legislation and bills would be introduced, and I start to lose track of them all. There was like PIPA and SOPA and ACTA, and they were continuously rebranding these things because they would get shot down in the House of Commons, or they might pass the House and make it through to the Senate, but they would never reach royal assent and actually become a law. And so the government would just rebrand this in an attempt to control the free flow of information online moving forward. And in case you didn't know, last year I was reporting on Bill C-10, censorship on steroids, the truth about Bill C-10 and the great Canadian internet firewall. I also put out this one, Feds want a leap of faith with drafting of Bill C-10 amendments. What could go wrong? And I also put out this, Bill C-10 has passed, and there's a new hate speech bill, and this was an interview I did with Maxime Bernier to talk about this. Now, back then, Bill C-10 did pass the House, but it never did make it onto the Senate. In fact, Parliament was dissolved. And what I was saying back in these videos here is that when Parliament resumes, They are going to rebrand this thing and go ahead with another attempt at passing this through. Enter Bill C-11, ladies and gentlemen. They just rebranded it once again. This is an act to amend the Broadcasting Act. And just to bring you up to speed, it's everything that's the same with Bill C-10. That would essentially put YouTubers and vloggers and bloggers and anybody who posts to social media essentially on par with being a broadcaster on television that is going to be regulated under the CRTC. This is exactly what is still going on right now, ladies and gentlemen. So I just wanted to bring this article to your attention. It breaks it down pretty good. Online Streaming Act Bill C-11 repeats Bill C-10's mistakes. Online Streaming Act Bill C-11 repeats Bill C-10's mistakes. New Canadian Heritage Minister Pablo Rodriguez has now reintroduced a new version of 2021's Bill C-10, the government's controversial effort to update the Broadcasting Act and treat the internet and everything on it with the same tools as offline broadcasting activity. Now known as the Online Streaming Act and renumbered Bill C-11, the new initiative patches some of Bill C-10's mistakes, but it continues many of its faults. It continues to permit the CRTC to manipulate our feeds on platforms, showing some content while hiding others, and shuts out small online content creators from its support. And indeed, that is very, very true. That is all happening. So let's just quickly give a brief overview of this. Won't go through it all. User-generated content is not fully excluded. You guys may recall in Bill C-10, there used to be a clause in there that said this will not apply to online users and vloggers and YouTubers and things of that nature. But we all noticed a very big problem when that clause was removed. And that's back when I started screaming from the rooftops saying, guys, they removed the clause. They're coming after all of us. This is going to be bad for the internet. Well, as it is now, they've brought the clause back, which seems to give people a little bit of comfort, but it's not all as good as it seems. A bit of good news. First, Section 4.1 is mostly back. This was the infamous clause removed last year, which excludes user audiovisual content from being treated as a program. So our content online won't be regulated by the CRTC. But Section 2.1 also continues to prohibit users themselves from being treated as broadcasters. As a result, most of us will not personally be regulated by the CRTC, but here's the problem. Coupled with the new addition of Section 4.12, many users may be left in a gray area. This clause gives the CRTC additional regulatory authority to determine who is classified as a broadcaster. Minister Rodriguez has given the CRTC 3 factors to take into consideration when determining what can be regulated and what's considered a program. Though their relative weighing is very unclear, but get a load of this. How much revenue the, quote, broadcaster is generating, whether it's from ad revenues, promotions, directly or indirectly from platforms. So how much money are they bringing in? You know, if they're bringing in a ton of money, if they're getting big enough to, you know, be a threat to the likes of the Canadian broadcasting, you know, CBC, state funded, then they're a problem to the status quo and therefore can be considered a broadcaster. Whether it's posted or cross-posted to a platform the CRTC already considers a broadcasting undertaking, and unique identifiers associated with the content. This can range from International Standard Organization number or to a URL. Algorithms are still fully up for manipulation. In case you guys didn't know, shadow banning is a very real thing that I've been dealing with for years at Press for Truth. And the way that works, just to quickly break that down if you're not familiar, is if you are saying something that goes against the status quo, but it's not exactly a violation outright, they can't shut it down because you have free speech. Well, sometimes rather than deleting the content, which will draw too much attention to it, or forcing you to take it down, they can't do that. So they will just manipulate the algorithm in a way so that your videos are not getting seen. They won't show up in the recommended tabs. They won't get on the first page if it starts to trend or has the potential to go viral. They won't show up in their subscribers' subscription feeds. There's all sorts of little tricks that they use to shadow ban content creators such as myself. And this new Bill C-11 maintains the algorithms in a way so as that they can manipulate the views of my content. You know, PFT should have millions of subscribers, but it's sitting in at around, I don't know, 270,000 or something. Totally shadow banned. CanCon guidelines will be updated one day somehow. There's a huge and obvious piece missing from the picture. Just in case you don't know, CanCon, it's kind of like something they came up with, when was it? Back in the 80s, to just state that a certain percentage of content that is going out on the airwaves in Canada has to be Canadian. So that may be getting reformed. Why social media platforms and much more are still included. Basically, nothing is off the chopping block. All the platforms will be included. Doesn't matter which one. They're going after all of them. So what now? Our core concerns are the same now as they were in 2021 with Bill C-10. Is user choice being respected by our government? Or are they telling us what they want us to see and hear? Is the government designing a content system that will equally reward all Canadian creators? Or are they planning to tax the internet? We love to support legacy media. Many of us don't. It goes on here to basically wrap up what they say is the main issue, and I have a little bit of a disagreement with what they feel needs to happen, where they say at the end, it concludes it by saying, rather than giving the CRTC new powers to control what we see on the internet, it's time the government acts on the advice of experts, reform their bill, and balance the scales for content creators and users. And that's where I differ from the article. I don't think that it's time to look to the very institution that created the problem in the first place to fix the problem for you, to so-called reform their bill. No, we can't look to the government to solve the problems that were created by the government. This bill does not need to be reformed. It needs to be rejected, lock, stock, and barrel. And we've done that already. We did it with CISPA, PIPA, SOPA, ACTA, Bill C-10. Well, now Bill C-11 is the new thing that they're going to start trying to push through. So I just wanted to bring that one to your attention, guys. There's some big things happening to free speech here in Canada and indeed on the global scale with Elon Musk now being the largest shareholder of Twitter stocks. Apparently, at least he's presenting it as though he's infiltrating the company from the inside. Of course, he only has a minor position. He would have to, make some pretty big friends on the inside there, work his way up, buy more shares until the point where he becomes a majority owner, to where he can actually start making some fundamental changes. And I said, I think he understands that starting from scratch is a lot harder than just taking over something that's already been established. And it appears that that's what this man may be doing. I don't trust billionaire oligarchs, but I just wanted to bring this to your attention, that this is something to pay attention to moving forward, guys. If you appreciate my efforts to do so, please check me out here at pressfortruth.ca/donate. Here you can make a one-time donation with PayPal. You can contribute Bitcoin if you're doing well in that space. There's other cryptocurrencies you can contribute by clicking there. You can join me as a member of Subscribestar. This is a great way to sign up as a monthly recurring contribution. You can also do that right here by clicking on this here, monthly recurring contribution, which goes directly to me. If you're Canadian, a great way to do it is e-transfers. That can be sent to dan@pressfortruth.ca, or if you prefer to keep it old school, my friends, you can send cash or checks or equipments or simply just words of encouragement to my P.O. box. Links for all of that are located in the description below. Once again, thank you so much to everybody who's ever contributed to my efforts to bring you this information over the years. Can't do it without you. And that is all for today, my friends. I want to thank you once again for tuning in. Don't forget to click that thumbs up button, share this video, and stay tuned. We're going to have more video reports coming very soon. This is Dan Dicks reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.